On today's video, I'm going to show you how I got the firewall from this to this. So for today, we're going to be shaving the firewall. So there's a few things in order here. Just to start with, I need to cut off everything that is protruding, anything that's keeping this from being flat. Just like this lip right here. What I'll do is just cut this lip all the way around. And then this wiper area, I'm not going to be running wipers. So I'm going to have to cut this flat. As you can see right here, it starts coming out a little bit. So I'm going to have to make a couple of cuts here and get that flat so I can put my plate over it. I'm gonna be running a Gen 5 LT. So I no longer have any use for this distributor hole right here. So my plan is to have this same shape on this side. So when I cut my steel, I wanna make my template right now, I'm gonna cut it the same as this one. So that way all I have is just this hole right here for the tunnel, and then this gap here I can use it to run my wire harness for the engine. So I'll probably have to make that hole a little bit bigger, which is fine. The harness does come with a grommet, so I just need to double check the size of the grommet so I can cut this just a little bit bigger, and then I can run my wire harness just straight through here, right under the lip to the engine. So you won't see almost any wiring. And I don't need any of this area here, so all of this is going to be covered up. Over here on this side, I just got to make holes for the master cylinder and then the boot for the steering column. So that's it. I'm going to start cutting, and like all this area here, I'm just going to cut it flat. Maybe weld it back, maybe not. It just depends on what it looks like in here. So I just want to make sure that I don't have any leaks. I'm gonna be cutting this whole lip off completely, all the way off, and then weld whatever I need to weld. I just want this sucker all the way flat. And also I'm gonna be covering up these body mounts. So these are gonna be flush. I do have a cage nut that is gonna replace this typical bolt you see on the body there. So that's coming up next. I'm gonna go ahead and set up this camera and start working. All right, so I got everything cleaned up and cut out all this little edge around here. I left this lip on both sides because I'm gonna build off of here to cover these. You can see the other one over there. So all this is cleaned up. Man, this stuff was full of rubber, so I made a giant mess. I cut off this lip. I cut off that section right there. So I'm gonna be rebuilding that and get it nice and flat. And that's about it. So now I'm gonna get this poster board here and get my arts and crafts on. So all you gotta do really is just kind of press it on there and then start cutting your templates. So I want a one-piece template. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make this one first from here to here. I'll show y'all once I cut it out. And then I think, I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but if I flip it over and then start it from that side over, I'll have this same shape on that side. So we'll see. Let me start working on this. So if you start with your first piece here, you want to use your the hood hinge bolts right here. So it helps it stay in place, and then you can obviously see the shadow. You just kind of trace it all the way around with your marker. Trace it, make sure it's all the way up over here. And then you can just kind of feel for it. And anywhere where there's a crease, if you simply just press down on it, it'll make the crease on the cardboard. And you can just, you know, cut right there, just like that, you see? So you just gotta go around it, fill it, make your marks, and then cut it out. See that I'm just kind of cutting it out as I'm going. And you wanna bring it just right to the edge to where you know, this is obviously more forgiving than the steel, but you wanna bring it to where, like right before it starts rounding off. That way when you weld it, it'll just mold right in. So there it is. You know, you can fine tune it as you're going. And you see I can just press right here and then it'll make the crease itself. I'll just mark it and cut it, and that crease is right there. So I'm just gonna keep going, keep marking and keep cutting. So here is the final template. It's really big. This is exactly how I want to cut the steel, just in one piece. So again, it was real easy. Just kind of press it along the sides and cut it, mark it, you know, fine tune it until you get the shape that you want. I also did the the body mount covers. And so now all I got to do is take this template and trace it on the steel and cut it out, and then start fitting and welding. So I'm gonna head down to my buddy's shop at Lone Star Lowe's. He has the sheet of steel over there, and I'm gonna take the template down there, trace it on there, and cut it out and keep working. All right, so we came to the Firewall factory today for this sheet of steel. So we got our template laid out here, and all we're gonna do is just trace and cut out. There it is, all cut out. 6.5 foot firewall. Now we have our plate cut out. All I have left to do on this is to cut out the holes for the hood hinges and a hole saw for the master cylinder and the holes for that as well. And then we'll be ready to start fitting. Before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and bare metal all the edge where I'm gonna be welding. Then I'm gonna hit it with this weld through primer. Let me see, where's my focus? No focus, my goodness. Bam, there we go. Zinc weld. So this is pretty good stuff. I've used it in the past. I'm gonna coat all the bare metal where I'm gonna be welding. And then I'm gonna go ahead and coat the back of the plate all the way through with the same stuff. That way we won't have to worry about any rust, surface rust, or corrosion. So here's everything coated on the firewall. I went ahead and cleaned up the whole edge where I'm gonna be welding, sprayed it with the weld through primer, and I also sprayed the back of the steel plate here. I got the holes aligned, so now what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and fit it, and then I'm gonna bolt it up using the hood hinges, the hood hinge bolts, and then the brake cylinder bolt, and we're gonna go ahead and start welding everything in. Oh, it looks better already. Looks wonderful. Exactly what I was going for right here. Just that one piece. Man, that looks great. Okay, so now I have everything in place, held on with the hood hinge bolts and the master cylinder bolt here. I'm gonna have to weld in the other bolt for the master cylinder. Here it is here. So I'm gonna have to weld that on the inside so it can be a stud, just like this one. But yeah, there it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up my welder and go ahead and start welding. I got all this welded in now. I actually ran out of shielding gas last night, so I had to go get some this morning, but I just had to finish welding the sides here. Where are we at? Right here on the edge, and then a little bit down here in the bottom. So all that's done. Next, I'm gonna move on with the cowl section. So in order to get this firewall flat, I had to cut out some of the cowl section. So now I got to rebuild this right here. I got a few ideas. So I have some extra scrap pieces left over from the firewall. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and trace these shapes out right here where the gap is and just weld them in. It shouldn't be that complicated. It seems like the easiest thing to do and the cleanest. You see there. So I'm gonna go ahead and trace these on my steel, cut them out and get them welded in. Well, I got everything ground down, welded in now. Here's the section that I rebuilt up top. So it's this piece here, goes up to here, and then here. And then what was cut from the inside, that was welded into the new firewall. Kind of dark, but you can see it right there. So this is the old cowl. This was all cut out from the old piece. So now this is welded to the new firewall in the front. And this is just a new piece that I added. So there it is, looking good. Everything's nice and flat now. So next I'm gonna be working on these body mounts. So I'm gonna remove this this nut and bolt here, and then we're gonna weld in some cage nuts, and we're gonna go ahead and cover these off. So let me find my cage nuts and I'll be back. So here are cage nuts. These are 7/16. So the same bolt we just removed from the body mount will go right back in here. If you look at the bottom of these, they have a little bit of a flange here on the bottom. So what I did is I made this hole a little bit bigger with the step bit, just so that I can sit right in the center of it. I don't remember having to do that before. I kind of feel like the flange was a little smaller maybe, but no big deal. Fits right in there. And now we can go ahead and weld it in. I'll weld all the way around it. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up my welder, and then we can start working on both of these. And I do have the covers, the sheet metal that I cut out for these covers here already ready. So we can start with that as soon as we're done with these cage nuts. There they are. So I went ahead and put the factory bolt back in just to show y'all that it fits and it works. It's functional still, so there it is. This bolt's nice and tight and it doesn't interrupt anything once I put that plate in. So I'm gonna clean this a little bit more, and then I'm gonna hit it with some primer, because that's gonna be sealed off forever. Here, let me show you the other side here. There it is, easy money. Just gonna clean this up a little bit more and coat it, and then I'll start with the outside plates. Well, there you have it. Everything is cleaned up really well. These are finished, molded in everything as much as possible. And now I went ahead and cleaned everything really well with 80 grit, and I'm just prepping for epoxy now. So next is gonna be epoxy. First, I'm gonna treat the bare metal with some wax and grease, the waterborne wax and grease. Clean it real good, let it sit for about 30 minutes, and then wipe it down again. And all the whole cowl section forward is gonna get epoxy. I did get some seam sealer. It's the SEM seam sealer. Let me go get that. Here it is. This is a gray seam sealer. This stuff is awesome. Anytime I've had to use seam sealer, this is the brand that I get, and depending on what color I'm working on, you know, this is usually what I choose, just something close. So the reason I got the seam sealer is to go over the welds that are inside the cowl. I already ran a light behind all the welds. There's nothing breaking through. But since water will go into that area you know, when you wash it, or if it rains or something like that. I'm just doing it as a precaution, and I'm gonna go over the welds on the inside of the cowl with the seam sealer before epoxy. So just a little extra measure. Maybe it's overkill, but it just gives me a little peace of mind, you know, to know that that area is gonna be protected. All right, I got this whole area in 2 coats of epoxy, pretty heavy coats. So now the next thing I'm gonna do is body work. There's really not a whole lot to record on body work. I'm just gonna clean up these edges here, make everything look nice and neat. I know this edge is completely covered with the fender, but I'm still gonna make it look pretty. Really, body work here is like small little pinholes and this little seam here. You know, there's really not a whole lot of body work, so maybe a little bit up top, about right there, you can kind of see that needs a little bit of filler work. Same on the other side, just do the edge. I don't like recording body work. I know I've said that in the past. It just always looks the same. So I'm gonna body work this, and then I'm gonna re-epoxy it, and that'll be it for the firewall. So I'll bring y'all back when I'm done with the body work. There it is, all finished. I just sprayed the last coat on it. I put 2 really heavy coats of epoxy. You got the edges nice and clean. Man, this was definitely a chore. All clean right there. Looks like it came that way. Thought by doing it in a 1-piece, this is my first 1-piece firewall, that it would eliminate some body work, but I don't think it did. It was a little bit more, or just about the same as doing a 2-piece. So there was some body work involved for sure. But it's all done now, and it looks great. I'm really excited and I'm done with this thing, because man, I've been doing a lot of body work. But yeah, check that out. This is the whole section that I had to rebuild, where the wipers were, and it came out exactly how I wanted it. So this is again the second coat of epoxy. It's still wet, still kind of wet, but it's gonna have that sheen. You can kind of see a reflection. It'll have a little bit more of a sheen once it's dry. But man, I'm real happy with the end result on here. Came out exactly how I wanted it. I can't wait to drop the engine in here to test fit, to see how it's all gonna look. But it's coming, it's coming. I'm kind of running out of things to do here, so. Man, if y'all made it this far in the video, I appreciate y'all. I know it was a kind of a long video, but I mean, you know, it's just a process to get this thing where it's at right now. You know, from completely original firewall to this, it was quite a bit of work. So next off, I'm gonna pull out this frame, get the body on the rotisserie, and then we're gonna spray the belly. I gotta clean the belly up really good, prep it, get it in epoxy and wrap it. I already have all the materials. I got the rotisserie ready. So that's gonna be the next video. After the belly is sprayed, then I can start working on the body, start painting stuff so we can see some color. I'm excited. I'm real excited. Man, I'm real happy right now. Look at that. Smooth. Yeah, well, that's it for this video, guys, man. I appreciate y'all watching. Again, if y'all made it this far, consider liking and subscribing. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thank y'all.